Eidolon hunts can basically be broken down into 3 easy steps for beginners. Get and charge lures, take down shields, and take down limbs. Now, those are separate jobs, and there are many intricacies there, but I will try to, I think, hyperlink all 3 of those and let you know where they are. And, yeah, but this is very beginner-focused, like, baseline, you don't know anything about anything. I'm going to start off with the lures, so let's go do that. So here's one thing. If you're loading in to see this, and as you see, it's my CPU actually that's the most slow, and my network speed that's pretty slow. I am not speeding as zealous, right? I'm not going to be loading in right away, and most people don't load in right away, especially if you have a high ping teammate or a high ping host. So once you get loaded in, there are a couple things you need to do. First thing, this is for all the members of the team. Find these blue spots. Sometimes, most of the time, he's around here. He could be here. He's coming out of the water at any point, you know. He's going to be coming out of the water somewhere. Sometimes he's there. Sometimes he's all the way back here, back there sometimes. Right now he's over here. Just mark. You don't have to mark him necessarily because it takes him a while to actually spawn in to be able to mark. But, okay, so that's rule number 1. Mark where he spawns in. Now, you have to go get lures. So first, let's look at where the lures can be. So what I typically do when I'm a Trinity, and I'll talk about roles a little bit later on, is I typically go and look for lures here. So I take an immediate left. It's typically a lure either right here or right here. Sometimes it's right here, and I'll show you that right there. But if I want to quick charge a lure, I'm Volt right now, and I'll explain quick charging a little bit later on. But I'll fly over here and watch things spawn in. There's always a lure right here. A lot of people do East Camp, which is over here. I'm not really a fan of that, but if you do need lures, you can get them. As a Trinity, if you don't have to quick charge lures, Hex Stiletto is another great place to get lures. There's going to be one right over here, one here, and one here. There's also going to be one here. Now let me show you where those are, just as, you know, like a normal run. You're going to jump out and go into your Archwing and just go here. This is if you're a Trinity, right? This is if you need to get lures. So you just go there. Investing in ciphers is a... Wow, how bad am I at this game? Investing in ciphers is a great idea, because then you can just hit Y right as you get a lure. And now this lure will follow you around. So there's a lure right here. Most of the time it's right here. Sometimes it's over there where I just got it. There's going to be a lure down here if you need another one. Just fly over here. My build is... There's something wrong with my build. I'll have to fix that. Something really wrong with my build. Anyway. And I will get into builds later. Sometimes there's a lure down here, which there is right now. And then there's going to be a lure over here at this camp right there. And this is the most important one, because there's typically quick charge options there for you. But I'm getting ahead of myself again, so I need to chill out. There's a lure right there. Again, sometimes there's going to be a lure over here, or a lure over here. There's going to be a lure right here. And then there are lures further back, but these are typically the ones you're going to get. Okay, so after you do that, my route typically is you go left to Twin Horns. You all know Twin Horns. Twin Horns is right. So I'm going to go right here and hack this thing. And you see I'll have an auto breach right there. These are Vombulus, and you see they kind of attach right there. Now to charge a lure, quote, charge a lure, is killing these things to go into their spectral form. As you see, they become a ghost. And then, once the lure gets back over here, because it has a mind of its own, the spectral form will transmit right into there. They do it automatically if you kill them like that. Now that is two bombs charged. It needs 3 to turn blue. Once it turns blue, it is considered charged. Now, that's important because whenever you go over to here and fight this Terralist, if you don't have a blue charged lure by the time you take out the first limb, which I'll explain a little bit later, it will transport at full shields, and that can really slow down your runs if you're trying to do 2x3s or 3x3 runs. You don't want that to happen. They also do take damage. You don't think that's a lot of damage, and right now it's not a lot of damage because they're near, but when you start fighting Gondolas, for example, that's by far the worst. Garry is what we call him. Terry, Garry, and Harry. They die really easily, which is the role of the Trinity. So, anyway. So that is an introduction to charging lures. Hey, this is post-production Philly cheesesteaks here. I never actually got around to tell you why you shouldn't have so many lures, especially in the very start of the battle in the Terra list as a newer player. But a lot of newer players go and grab 5, 6, 7 lures and are like, "Oh yeah, let's go get them all at once." But the problem is only a limited number of Vonvalis spawn at the moment, so odds are likely that you'll only be charging many of the lures partially up. And what you really want to do is you want to be going and killing Vombalist to charge one lure so you can get done with the battle, and in the process of getting done with the battle, you will hopefully have charged a second lure by the time you're ready to kill him. So don't grab so many lures, or if you're the designated lure person, make sure one other person gets at one lure so they can charge it up and continue the fight as you're getting lures. Okay, on to quick charge. As you can see, this is just instinctual at this point. I'll just fly straight up in the air and go grab one of that. Now, here's one of my quick charge locations. So you'll fly up in the air and you'll go and get that. But now, just kind of slowly go in, and when you see Vom spawn, now we didn't get any this time, it doesn't look like, but you see this little blue flying thing around this guy? It'll look like that, but it's a deeper blue, and it'll indicate that Vombalists have spawned in. And if you have a full squad of 4 people, which is why it's important to let all of your squad load in before you do anything, then 3 Voms will spawn, and that's a full charge right there. So that was one location where Voms can quick charge in, let's say. And here's another location where they can quick charge in. You got to go slowly, and they'll be around the back here. I don't even mess with this location. I showed you the first location that was this camp over here. And typically that's pretty good. And then here's another camp where they can spawn in, right around here. This part of the map right here. This is a great location. This is typically where you can go and see where any bombs are. And then sometimes you just get unlucky like I did here, and you don't get any bombs to spawn. So the best course of action, in this scenario at least, is to go over to the Terra list. He will have 1 or 2 bombs attracted to him, and also let your squad mates know, because they can help you find Vombalists pretty easily and effectively. There's no one here, so he's actually going to transport, and this is a good representation of what it looks like when they do transport and what you should do when they transport. Your squad mates are probably going to be pretty mad at you because you let him transport, and how dare you. But typically he doesn't go far, but it's the same process either way. You're going to climb up here and look around. Look for the blue. And when you find the blue, you can actually pre-damage him right here. Here's the deal. You see, it doesn't look like we can damage him, but I just took off half his shield because I didn't wait for him to turn purple. It's not that there's any implicit damage increase, it's just that it goes faster and it's more damage. You see, that's his main thing. If he stomps, then he's going to try to get you out of the rhythm here. After one transport, you see this little blue line thing. That's indicative of Vombalists. So I just made all of those spectral forms. I should only be grabbing one of them. And you see, I just turned it blue, right? And so since I have more Vombalists, I'm not going to kill them all right away. I'm going to wait until I have another lure, like right here. Now sometimes there's a glitch where this lure doesn't follow, but it appears that glitch has been patched ever since the most recent update. Okay, here's another thing. Sometimes you accidentally kill them with your amp, and they go into, not spectral form, but they become that little black dot on the screen. You just want to grab that and go near your amps, and hopefully those amps will grab it, and put it in just like a spectral form bomb would be put in. There's a reason why I'm shooting through my Volt Shield, and it's because the Volt Shield, even though you can't really see it, it gives you 150% critical chance. So critical chance both to your amp and to your weapon. So if you have a high critical damage amp or weapon, you're going to want to be shooting through your Volt Shield. As you see, I got these 2 charged up. Now I will capture them, and I always have to watch out for the health here. So you see this one, losing shield, it's kind of losing health, and you see this is super useful. This is the part where if you had a full squad, not just a demonstrating purpose, but if you had a full squad, the Trinity would be getting out. If she had any lures, she would be dropping them, which is telling them to hold position here, and then someone else can come over here and make them follow them. And she'd be going and getting more lures, because right now you have a lot of Bombalus, and you can't see them because they're kind of buried under the Terror List, but they are there. And at this point, all you do is, and make sure you have 2 on the Terror List specifically. At this point, all you do is kill, right? And then, don't kill all the bombs at once. Make sure you have lures to charge around here, and then just go ahead and kill them. And as you see, they all drop these little black dots that I pointed out earlier. You're going to want to charge lures. You see, I can't pick it up because I already have 1, but you're going to want to charge the lures like that. Okay. So, right here you see I have a brilliant Eidolon card and whatnot. I'll explain the Eidolon a little bit later. I don't like shooting because all the weapons are going to be used. Okay, here's another point. Massive point right here. He does this and he turns blue and he starts regenerating the shield. There are Vombalus everywhere. Now, kill them. Kill them right away. What I'm going to do, since I'm soloing this and I only have 1 lure, is I'm going to go grab a lure. But the reason he's regenerating his shield is because Vombalus are there and they are helping him live. That's what Anko means when he says, smaller sentients rush to the Eidolon's aid, healing it. Stop them. That's his line. So, once you kill all the Vombalus, relatively easily, you can take out his shields. Now, as you see, I ran out of Yunari Wisp here. That's because I haven't run Yunari in a long time. But once you kill him, you can go ahead and continue on your progress of the leg, or whatever limb you're working on. So, look at the angle that I'm shooting at. I'm trying to take as much advantage of punch through that I can. Now, I'm running Epitaph, because I'm a fan. But punch through also exists on all sniper rifles, so Lanka, Rubico Time, all of them. You're going to want to shoot, for example, at the front of his knee. So maybe you'll hit the bottom of the knee and it comes through the top of the knee. It credits you for 2 hits, not 1 hit. That's what punch through is. That's why it's great. That's why you want to run it here. But I'm going to show you about transporting lures. This is another one of the keys to fast Eidolon. You need to... Okay, I'll try to kill him right away. Right after you kill him, run and take the lures to wherever they need to go. Sorry, keep dying. I'm gonna die. That's fine. That's fine. I just don't want him to regenerate any shields, so I do gotta kill him pretty quick. Right after you kill him, which is going to be right there, run to where you need to go to where you need to take the lures, which is right about here for me this time. And then mash your action button so they stay there. You see, they're still connected. They have yellow lines connecting here, but the loot will go here, which is very important because if you're trying to do quick runs, you want to either take the loot to here so you can instantly put it in here, which will allow me to do it very soon, or like right here, which I'm not going to do because I'm not going to do a Eidolon right now, or you can take it back to the gate once you're done with Harry. Okay, so at this point you know already about how to get and charge lures, how to quick charge lures, what's your job with lures, essentially. Make sure you have a blue one before you take out one of his limbs, and make sure you have 2 blue ones before you take out him completely. If you kill him only with 1 lure, he will be killed, not captured, and you can't continue the Eidolon. Also note that the Gondolist and the Hydralist both require 3 charge lures to kill him, capture him, instead of 2. The Terror List only requires 2. All 3 of these, only require 1 charge lure for him not to transport, and that gets increasingly more important when you're dealing with the Gondolist and the Hydralist. But let's talk about amps for 1 second. Now, you basically have... Why are you looking that way? You basically have 2 options. You can go, if you are not leveled up with Fortuna, which I strongly encourage you to do, but you can go with a I think it's a 232. That's the amp. I'm not entirely sure of it because I haven't used it in so long, but, and definitely consult your local wiki page. I'll link that below. Or you can go with the 777. Now, I'm an idiot, and I broke them up because when I made amps, all they were doing was leveling, so... the This is the SS, the Sentient Slayer. There's no, anyway. This is the Clamora Prism, which is the 7, again, linked below in the wiki page, and then the Shiroxan Scaffold. The best scaffold there is because, sorry, the Certus Brace. The Shiroxan Scaffold is alright, it's not a bad scaffold, but the Certus Brace is really what the good thing is. This is the best brace in the game because it gives you the highest crit chance. As you see, the crit chance with my primary fire is quite good. However, I only run this when I'm running Yunari, and I'll explain Yunari a little bit later on. But this, and I'll show you a demo of this. But then you also have this right here. This is the scaffold, the Propa Scaffold, and the Certus Brace. Now, this, I'm only using my secondary fire, which is my middle mouse button, but it may be bound differently for you. It shows you it has 50% critical chance. Okay, that's not that great. What's the deal here? But it also has 9,000 void damage, and it's an area of effect. So, as you saw from my previous example, I'm basically just shooting it as his feet. And there's only one reason you'd use the Propa Scaffold Certus Brace, and that's if you're running Maturai, and I'll explain those two right now. So, there are some schools of focus, and most likely, if you are introduced at all to focus, you're running Xenoric, because Xenoric gives you free energy, essentially. And if you're just leveling Warframes, or just new to the game, I encourage you to do Xenoric, because Xenoric's quite a good one. But, if you're doing Tridolon hunts, or trying to get into Eidolon hunts, you're going to want to run one of these two. The most common one is Maturai. So Maturai, as you see, I have all these unlocked, and I can make more videos on focus, but the main thing you want is this, Void Strike to max rank. This is on leaving Void mode, you get 12% additional damage. So basically what you're going to want to do is just stay in Void mode as long as you possibly can, and you'll see on the top right, there's a little counter that goes up and up and up and up. And it will basically get you as high as you possibly can go. Now realistically, you're going to get 2 to 3 times you know, in your starting thing, you realistically only get about 2 to 3 times multiplier from Void Strike. You can charge that, and with a really good squad, they'll be actually alternating who takes down shields, because you can charge this infinitely. So if you have one person who takes down shields, the one time they'll just start charging, and they'll go one whole cycle, and then they'll have a charged up Void Strike to continue taking down shields. So, but the reason for using the secondary, I already forget what it's called. I called it the Big Boom. That's the BB. But the reason for using that is so you can take advantage of the maximum possible damage and crit damage that you could get. So that's Void Strike. A lot of people run Void Strike, and if you're serious about Tridolon hunts, you'll probably be running Void Strike. So it's good to start leveling Maturai now. It's also not as intensive. As you see, you unlock this one and this one, just leave them completely unbound, and then go try to max rank your Void Strike right away. That's the main thing. Yunari is the other one, and hardly any people run Yunari anymore, but it is the key to running 3x3s and 4x3s and 5x3s in nighttime. Specifically, a couple things. This is your bread and butter. In your operator, you'll hit your action button, your melee button, whatever that is. For me, it's E. And underneath, in between their legs, it'll spawn a little wisp. Now, it's not a Cetus wisp, but it's going to, at max rank, give you 100% damage. Now, that sounds all right. It sounds like what Void Strike could do in about 9 seconds. But it can stack with Void Strike. So, as a support frame, typically the Trinity, sometimes the Volt, you can be spamming Yunari Wisp for your Maturai folks to grab, and so not only do they have that charged multiplier on the top right that I'm about to show you, they also have 100% damage. So, that's going to give them, that is the key to fast hunts. Now, there's also a couple things in here. This is the reason why I said Trinity typically takes this. It's because when you have these also ranked up, you have Void Mode, reducing damage, which is excellent because you can just stay in Void Mode when some of the bigger damage, when Garry and Harry spawn in and start doing damage to your lures, you can just stay there and they're basically never going to die with Void Chrysalis. Things go invisible. This is annoying to me, which is why I haven't leveled it up. It's all right. It's not very effective in Eidolon hunts. It's pretty confusing, but it's a necessary evil to use this. And then there's also these two right here. So you can void dash through an enemy to reduce their armor. That is super helpful, especially if you have nothing better to do at the moment, especially for taking down limbs. And then you could do this to reduce their damage. I haven't leveled that up because that's not as important to me. But that is the Yunari support. Yeah. And I typically run Matarai, but for purposes of example, I'm going to show you Yunari, and I'm also going to show you the SS. This would be what your support frame uses, just to, if they don't quite get the shields down, if maybe you have 10 or 20% shields, you can use this. And I'll go into amps a little bit as well. So let's do that. Okay, let's go back to my primary role, which is using obviously the Certus Brace, but the Propus Scaffold primarily. Let's look at that again. Okay, so you want the Propus Scaffold, and you want to be running Matarai specifically. And I'm going to show you just another example of Matarai and the Propus Scaffold, because it's important to know the mechanics of it. But let me just go very, very quickly over the amps that I use, operator amps. So I already showed you Magus Lockdown, because that's very easy to identify Vonvalist, and I think that's actually more important to a quick mission than a little bit more damage. Magus Elevate is typically what I use in normal missions, but I'm going to use Magus Cloud. Magus Cloud is Void Dash Radius. Why am I using Magus Cloud, you ask? Apologies. The reason I use Magus Cloud is because I'm also going to be using Virtuoso Shadow, which is increased crit chance, which is not actually the highest damage you can get, but it is the most consistent damage, and that's what we're going for. You don't have to get a headshot. You actually can just void dash through their head. Now, their head box is very small, and it's very hard to hit, so you need a lot of training, and which is the reason why Virtuoso Ghost, or whatever it's called, Magus Ghost, is helpful in this circumstance. You could also run Strike. Strike is not as consistent, but the increased critical damage will actually give you more damage. I find Virtuoso Shadow much better. So, okay, that's just a very small showing of what you can do. Pro tip number 5000. I don't have a melee equipped. Why? You know, you can kill Voms quicker with a melee. Actually, it will consume one of your charges for Void Strike, which is not good. You want to keep all 8 charges, 7 charges, whatever you have. If you're losing a charge every time you go out of your Archwing, it's almost useless to use Void Strike, because then you can't consistently charge to a suitable degree. So don't run a melee, and then you can use your Archwing without having to lose a charge. And I'll show you that in action here. And I'm also going to show you the mechanics of the 777, because it took me maybe 100 runs to get down the mechanics. It's not easy. It's not easy to this day. I still miss a lot of things. I'm not even going to worry about a lure right now. I'm just trying to show you. He's right here. Okay. This is actually where a lot of Gondolists and Hydrolists spawn, so this is kind of interesting. So, right when they load in, their headbox will not grant you a headshot, as you see. It's actually around here. Now, I got it with Magus Cloud, but anyway. So, 1.31. What I'm going to do is what I would do normally. Let's say a Gondolist is spawning in, or somebody else is working on the field right now. I'm going to stand in void mode. I'm just staying the whole time. I have an energy pad that I've bound to a certain place. Energy pads are great, just like ciphers. You should definitely invest in them. And you can see it. I can just charge basically infinitely. And so now I'm going to go back and I'm going to go try to get a headshot on him, which is not easy to do. I did actually just get one there, but his hitbox is very small on his head. Now what you want to do, you want to just shoot for the legs, vertically for the legs. You don't want to go up and down. You just want to go, and here's another thing. It comes closer to you, so if you're behind him, and if you shoot here, it's probably not going to damage him. It's probably going to get out of the blast radius in time. So what you want to do is you want to shoot it in front of him, right? Just like that. And you can see I'm doing massive damage on him. And the great thing is, I have 3 charges left over. I have 7 times combo. The reason I am running Trinity right now is because if I had no lures, and if they were getting damaged, I would hit my 4. And it would heal them. As you see, What is that 75%? They would actually get 100% healing. That 75% is a damage reduction, which is the real good thing with Trinity as compared to a Wisp or another support frame in Oberon. The 75% damage reduction is super useful. Here's another small tidbit. If you're not running, if you're running Yunari, for example, you're not going to get this 8 shot bonus that you're going to get by going into Void Strike, right here. So what I did is I put Energized Munitions on, so whenever I'm running that, instead of 4 shots, I can just constantly shoot, you see. And I got off 20 shots there because of Energized Munitions. Check it out. I could make a helmet video of that. I'm not going to because that's a lot of work. But Energized Munitions is a great alternative if you are running Yunari for example. How'd I go so far? That's another question. Those are waybound nodes. You're going to want to unlock, ultimately, you're going to want to unlock all your waybound nodes. That is Void Dash Radius, I think it's called. Void Dash Speed, something like that. Now, I didn't show you the Gondolist or the Hydralisk. It's more of the same, essentially, but I am going to, I'll show you. Instead of 4 limbs, 2 knees, 2 elbows, they're actually like shoulders. I guess they're kind of elbows. Femurs, whatever they are. Instead of just 1, 2, 3, 4, Garry and Terry will have 1 and 2. So they'll have 1 up here and 1 more. Think of them like shoulder plates. So you'll have to take them out 6 times instead of 4 times. Just keep that in mind. That's just a small thing that you'll get to know. The arms are still the hardest to hit on those, so I typically work on those first. I could get into more detail on this, but for now, this video is only going to be 30 minutes long. That's way too long, but I hope it helped. Oh, right, I still have to show you my build, so let me do that. Okay, how about builds? This is my Trinity build. You may notice I don't have any range, and you may be thinking, what about your 4? What if you don't have the lures with you? It actually turns out that the 4 is based on affinity range, not range. These others are based on range, but you're not going to be using Energy Vampire. I hate to break it to you. Unless you find Vombalists, and even them, they don't give that much energy. You're probably not going to be using Link. Most likely. You're going to be focused on other stuff. You'll be using these 2. Energized Munitions, if you want, you could very easily get away with not using it. Just, for example, using Matarai or just going through reloading. That's fine. But you will be using this a lot. The duration and the strength. You need at least 155% power strength to get 100% restoration and 75% damage reduction. That's what it caps at. And Trinity is one of the most important people. If you lose a lure, it's the most... It's so stupid. It's so useless to lose a lure in the heat of battle. And so Trinity can prevent that, and your squad will love you for it. Volt, here's my other frame. If you notice, it kind of looks like a Hydralist. Thank you for liking my passion frame. Arcane Nullifier. I didn't point this out on the Trinity, but I had this on here as well. If you have enough to get Arcane Nullifier, or if you farmed enough Arcanes, for example, in, what is that one called? Scarlet Spear or Orphix Venom, you might already have enough for Arcane Nullifier. This is excellent, because every time you take out a limb, they'll do a little roar, and their roar is magnetic, and magnetic sucks up all your energy. So if you're Volt trying to put down shields, and your energy gets sucked up, you're not going to be a good Volt. That's plain and simple. So you're going to want to work on getting Arcane Nullifier. Deadeye, I use it for sniper damage, but since I've been using Epitaph, it's kind of not as useful right now. This build is a duration, efficiency, and strength build. The strength is only a tiny bit of strength just to kind of help me with speed if I want it. Energized Munitions on him as well if I am running Yunari, for example. It's useful. You could use... Roar has been nerfed, but you could use something like Eclipse, or of that sort, a damage boost, if you want to. You don't have to. It's not a requirement, but typically this is better if you have to take down shields. And then Discharge, you won't be using it very much if at all. Sometimes there are Grineer that spawn in that you have to kill. Kill them with that. Electric Shield, there's the big one. There's the big one. That's why I have efficiency so high. Uh, that will get you, you can put down a whole bunch of them. You see, the biggest upgrade to Volt Prime is his energy pool. He has 850 energy, so at max energy, you can put down as many of these shields as you want. My duration is quite high because typically you'll come back to the same spot with either a Terralist or a Hydralist or whatever, and you'll have that shield already ready and ready to go. So there's that. You'll never pick it up, essentially. If you need to cast a new shield, you'll just cast a new shield. And it doesn't tell you there, but you get 150% crit damage. So whatever shots you use or whatever amp shots you use, you're going to want to shoot them through a Volt Shield because that will give you a boost. Yeah, okay. So how about guns? How about them? Rubico Prime. You'll notice something here. I am running Radiation Crit. There you go. That's all you need to know. If you can figure it out based on that, Radiation Crit. There you go. Crit damage, split chamber, multi-shot. That's kind of, this one's kind of optional. This is radiation. This is, you could just run normal Serration here. I like the extra sprint speed for Archwing. This kind of hurts your accuracy, but if you do get a shot in, it's nicer to have that. More crit damage. Crit damage radiation. That's a pattern. Epitaph, new weapon, great weapon. My goodness, it is so, so good. Look at that. Look at that crit chance right there. Do you see that? Crit chance, crit multiplier. That's, you win. You just win. That's what you get. I have the primed mods on here. I have Hornet Strike, and I have very good radiation. Epitaph is a great weapon that I can get into other things. But crit radiation, there you go. And if you're running Matter-Eye, you probably have some leftover Void Strike charges that you can use. Take out one of its limbs with it. That's pretty much it. I forgot to mention one thing. Don't run a companion. I don't care if they keep you alive. I don't care if you like them or if you have to level them or whatever. Companions almost always have fetch on them because it's the best mod. Yet, if you're running Yunari, the companion will grab all the wisps. And that is useless because companions don't damage Eidolons. I cannot tell you how many times I've been in a match and the companion, they had a companion and, well, they took all the wisps. It made the Yunari useless. It made the fight go much longer, and we had to revive their companions because they wanted to bring them. Just don't bring a companion. If you die, your teammates will most likely get you up. Your companion's not going to revive you in most cases anyway, so don't worry about it. Don't bring a companion. They're useless. Yeah, that is almost all it. I think that's it. Yeah, there are two other roles. The Trinity obviously will grab the most lures. It will grab all the lures that are not immediately needed and charge them up and make sure you have enough charged where you can just kill him and you get the capture. Then you'll have a Volt who will... You should typically run 2 Volts. One to take down the shields and one to take down the limbs, right? And then you have a option slot there. You could run Chroma, you could run Harrow. I don't have either Chroma or Harrow because I got bored with them. But those are 2 very useful frames for taking out limbs. Very useful frames. Oberon is sometimes ran. He's more of a solo person. He can do a little bit of everything poorly. There you go. That's actually a great Oberon review in and of itself, but in terms of Eidolon hunts, he can do a little bit of everything poorly. So if you're trying to solo, probably use Oberon. If you're not trying to solo, stick with the roles of Volt and Trinity, and then have a damage boosting frame like, for example, a Rhino that's typically run. Sometimes Octavia is run. Yeah, anyway, that's the point. So, yeah, I hope this helps. If you have any questions, I can make a follow-up video. This is by no means a comprehensive list. I'm just trying to get you introduced to the things you'll need to know when you do a Eidolon hunt. I've done about, I think, 300 captures, something along those lines. I know a thing or two, and I know what annoys me, and I don't get typically annoyed. So don't do the things that I said not to do.
Don't do anything I would do, and definitely don't do anything I wouldn't do. There's a little gray area in there, and that's where you operate.
What, does that mean that I'm an Avenger?
No.
And definitely start out with terror lists. Definitely start out with terror lists. Don't go straight into Tridolon captures, because you're not good enough to do gondolas. At whenever you're struggling with the terror list. Whenever you're good enough to really easily do the terror list, try a tri-cap, and you'll probably fail, and you'll probably get yelled at, because this is the most competitive part of this game, the most contentious part of this game. But don't let that discourage you, but definitely take their advice. Whatever they say, if someone's not being an absolute dick, take their advice. They're probably right. And if they're not right, then you just discovered another way not to do it. Yeah, this has probably been very drab and boring, but it needed to be said, and I hope you paid attention long enough for it to help, and I hope I formulated my words in a way that is easy to understand. I've been told I'm a little bit verbose. Anyway, yeah, cool. Peace out.